So yesterday I had a chance to sit down with Eric Hecker. He worked at the South Pole Station in Antarctica, and he's one of only a handful of people. He used to actually work for Raytheon, and then he saw what they were doing at the South Pole Station. And you won't believe what he discovered. He then became a whistleblower. He testified in front of the United States Senate under threat of perjury. And what he saw was astonishing. And so he was flabbergasted when people are sitting there saying there's no such thing as weather modification. What he worked on at the South Pole Station makes the HARP project up in Alaska look like a baby project. The machines that are at the South Pole Station that are able to control earthquakes and the weather, and not only that, is a giant UFO control tower, which is a neutrino control tower. So I had a chance to speak with Eric, but we specifically talked about the weather modification tools. And so here, I want to play a little bit of this interview for you with Eric Hecker. Let's talk about the weather piece of this. So we're seeing the weather manipulation. We've covered this extensively here on the show. The NexRad radar systems that have been used into direct and move these storms in a path of destruction. The control of these storms is unbelievable. And I think most Americans were kind of silent, didn't realize that this was actually happening. I think the cat is out of the bag on all of this now. But I'm curious what the South Pole Station is, and when you work there, how it actually is able to be used as an earthquake generating machine, what else it's doing there, and maybe how this is tied to the current weather events and all of the things that we're seeing right now across the United States. Can you give our audience more of an overview of that?
Absolutely. The South Pole Station has a system known as the Ice Cube Neutrino Detector. It is currently the world's largest phased array transmitter. This is basically Tesla technology. I'm sure a lot of the audience is familiar with systems like HARP, which is effectively built on the surface of the Earth, and it has a 2D situation. It has length and width as far as a phased array goes. The South Pole Station differs in so far as it also goes down deep into the ice, giving it a third dimension, length, width, and height. So it has exponential more, I guess you would say, capabilities, targeting
than the HARP
discharge of power. Then, yeah, it's like HARP on steroids, basically. So, yes, it generated the earthquakes that occurred in Christchurch, New Zealand in February of 2011.
And you told me before, I'll let you go on in a second, but when you and I chatted on the phone a few weeks ago, you mentioned, I don't know if you can say this now or if I'm speaking out of telling tales out of school here, but you were speaking to a source that you worked with at the South Pole Station. Since you left there, said the technology has gotten so advanced now with these generation of earthquakes that it's like an autopilot system in an aircraft. I think you described it, that it's so advanced now, it would blow your mind at how targeted these earthquakes are that they can use from this South Pole Station.
Basically, the trick of it all, one of the things that I learned when I went to this event in Alamosa, Colorado, I spoke with a gentleman by the name of Dr. Simeon Hine, and he was doing a presentation on ball lightning. And one of the things that he discussed was how there are reports when earthquakes occur that ball lightning, I guess you would say, is ejected, manufactured by the earthquake. So I engaged him in a dialogue, and I said, well, Doc, wouldn't there be some sort of symmetry there that if an earthquake can discharge ball lightning, wouldn't we be able to deliver ball lightning to generate an earthquake? And he agreed that it's just simply the matter of being able to deliver said energy, which for all practical purposes, think of it having an explosive capacity to it. So if you can wirelessly transmit energy from a power supply somewhere on Earth, deliver it to another location, the end result is quite simply an earthquake. Wireless transmission of energy is something that Nikola Tesla has brought up, 100 some odd years ago now. So this is the state of the union, is that Nikola Tesla discovered this stuff. The powers that be absconded his information. They cordoned it off away from the mass population and have been monopolizing the use of these types of technologies for many decades now. We, the people, are suffering under this monopoly of technology by our oppressors. It's literally just that simple. And that would be the motive for them to have agents, for lack of a better term, flooding the disclosure community with BS to muddy the waters and confuse us, we the people, so that we can continue to be wholly oppressed and well managed.
When you were at the South Pole Station, you witnessed this ice cube neutrino machine in action. So it goes deep, and it's and much larger than HARP. And I guess just walk us through what they would be using this for. How would they be manipulating the weather? How would they be manipulating and targeting earthquakes around the world? Why would they be doing this? And who is in control of the South Pole Station at this point? Is it the United States government? You were a contractor with Raytheon when you were there. Is it a private enterprise? Who is controlling it?
Great questions. First and foremost, one of the things that the former crew members had emphasized to me to try to get people to understand as I'm trying to get this information out there is that you have to understand it's just very easy now to deliver that energy anywhere on the planet. It's not challenging.
Like they can pick a spot. They can They can pick a spot in Iran, and they can just dial it in on the computer and launch an earthquake.
Deliver the energy that instigates it. The term that people should become familiar with is earthquake induction or earthquake inducing. So similar to like when you go on the internet and you Google chemtrails, right? You're going to get a whole bunch of baloney that says chemtrails are garbage, blah, blah. But if you Google the term stratospheric aerosol injection, you'll start to find all of the science of what's really going on when they crisscross our skies. So
and the patents and all of that.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. So
right.
if you look up inducing earthquakes or earthquake induction, you will become privy to a sea of information and science that supports the existence of this technology. It's just that available. People just need to start paying attention to what's going on in the world around them and this disparity in technology. As far as who's running the facility, I'm not 100% sure. This was part of that conversation that I had in Washington, D.C., is because it seems like these unacknowledged special access programs, USAP, which anybody who's paying close attention, USAP is the actual title of the Antarctic program. It's the United States Antarctic Program, USAP. It is a USAP program by definition. So wow. They are being very deceptive as to what the secondary and tertiary capacities are for this massive phased array system, and they're just pumping it out to the general population as if it's operating under the auspices of science. Of course, things like that have to be secreted away. They're not going to be running around saying we have the world's largest directed energy weapons system at the South Pole Station in Antarctica, because first and foremost, it would breach the Antarctic treaties. And people would say, oh, well, they would never do that. Well, study Greenland and look what happened down there when the United States of America was sneaking nuclear missile bases into Greenland without telling the local authorities. This is an activity that our nation and many other nations are more than happy to break the rules every single chance they get.
We've seen a number of these NEXRAD radar systems going off in bursts and basically directing Hurricane Helene into an area where the NEXRAD radar systems were not going off, being directed in a path. Of course, a lot of discussion about HARP and how all of this plays into it. If you talked about the South Pole Station, the ice cube neutrino machine basically being HARP on steroids, how would it or likely be used with Hurricane Milton, Hurricane Helene in the United States?
I believe it would just be simple delivery of energy. That it is that simple. These systems themselves, we're just observing Mother Nature and the flow of her energies. We call it a storm. We call it a hurricane. It's just a matter of practice through the application and delivery from systems like this that have copious amounts of power available to deliver. It's just a matter of playing around and learning the targeting and reaction. It's application of intention and checking the reaction. And this is something that they seem to have gotten dialed in. whether it be through one singular system at the South Pole, or like we're seeing with the NextRad systems, or potentially through integrating with other HARP platforms around the world. We just need to start to appreciate that this is exactly how it works and how simple it can be. Energy can be delivered wirelessly with great accuracy and impact, and we're witnessing it with our own eyes. And we need to start asking the right questions of the right people, and we need to stop being led by the nose by the misinformationists and disinformationists that frankly don't really have any skin in the game other than profiteering. It's a neutrino detector. Okay, well, what did it cost, and what's the price per neutrino detected, and what do we do with that information? What's the value in science that's the return on the investment for the average mortgage payer that's investing into this? What do we care where neutrinos are coming from? It doesn't seem to have much logic and reasoning to what we're being told its function is. But if we realize that there are rogue factions in control of the world's largest phased array transmitter that can deliver copious amounts of energy anywhere on the planet to manipulate storms, to increase them, to steer them, to create earthquakes. It was many decades ago that the Air Force put together a plan to control the weather by 2025. This is a report that's available on the internet now. This is a report that was handed to me in great secrecy many years ago. I was told to never get caught with it. But it stated very clearly that weather warfare and weather manipulation was the battlefield of the future, that he who controls the weather controls the planet. I do not believe that the United States government is the only faction working in this capacity. I do not even believe that nation states are the only factions working in this capacity. In my experience, nation states are puppets to military-industrial corporation contractors. Those folks run the world because there's no freedom of information that allows you to dig into their archives and let us know what they're doing. They simply manufacture whatever they want and then sell it to the highest bidder. Nothing prevents these companies from building their own fleets of UFOs. Nothing's stopping them from going off planet and mining asteroids if they want. Here's another thing that people don't consider. If we're not told that a technology exists, then it's not regulated.
That's Eric Hecker, who worked for Raytheon at the South Pole Station in Antarctica. And he's fed up. He's fed up with all of these charlatans who don't know what they're talking about when it relates to what's going on in Antarctica. These people that take tourist trips and don't even get anywhere near the South Pole Station. And he's a whistleblower, came forward and testified before the Senate and what's actually happening there in these directed energy weapons. And he's saying what's happening there is criminal. And so I think what's most telling about this, by the way, you can see the full interview. We're going to release the full interview this weekend. If you're a Redacted Plus member, we're going to release that full interview first to you on Friday, I think, right, Philip? If you go to redacted.inc.
Yes.
But I think what was most telling, and Philip and I talked about this yesterday, is that the fact that many of these NGOs, many of these non-governmental organizations are specifically involved in this, and it's unregulated. They don't have to answer to Congress. They're not in front of Congress. Congress doesn't have to. It's not some DOD program. It's offhanded to them, right? I mean, I think that's at the heart of this.
Yeah, and the contractors that are handling, like the basics on these places, like the commissaries and the janitorial stuff like that, are freaking defense contractors. Like, why is Raytheon there? Why is Lockheed Martin there? What sense does
They're
that
there
make?
for sanitation purposes? Like, literally, plumbing and sanitation services are handled by Lockheed Martin? What? And Raytheon? Come on, people, wake up, please. Again, so I know you guys are awakened, but so many people aren't. But
also the energy with which the media is denying this out of pocket is concerning. And it tells you, oh, there's something they don't want you to see there. let's look there then. It's like when your mom's like, don't look under there, don't look in that cabinet.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, and the military's use of these technologies down there is astonishing. So anyway, do your own research on this, but we're going to have the full interview you can watch of Eric Hecker. And there's a lot more because we go into a lot with the UFO program and the cover-up and how the UFO disclosure program right now, they keep giving you these like little drips and drabs of stuff to distract you from the real stories. Like, I don't know if you saw the Michael Schellenberger piece this week about now we have a name for the program. Oh, we're all supposed to get excited about that when he's like, here we have actual information from the South Pole Station. Like, pay attention to what's actually happening instead of being led by the nose by these people in Congress and David Grush and all that other stuff right now.